Have you ever noticed that the people who give the most are often respected the least? The cruel truth is that the world rarely values what it gets for free, and that includes you. The moment you stop making yourself endlessly available is the moment people begin to fear losing access to you. The greatest deception modern society teaches is that the more available you are, the more appreciated you will become. From childhood, you are rewarded for being helpful, responsive, agreeable, and endlessly present. You answer every message immediately. You accept every invitation. You solve everyone's problems. You believe that generosity will earn respect. But reality follows a different law, one that is colder, harsher, and infinitely more powerful. People do not naturally value what is always within reach. Observe human nature without emotion. Water is priceless in a desert because it is scarce. Gold has value not because it shines, but because it is difficult to obtain. Diamonds are locked away behind glass because rarity creates desire. Yet when it comes to your own life, you ignore this principle completely. You make your time available to anyone. You offer your attention freely. You become emotionally accessible 24 hours a day. Then you wonder why people slowly begin taking you for granted. Scarcity is not manipulation. Scarcity is psychology. The human brain is wired to pursue what might be lost. We chase opportunities that appear limited. We become curious about people who cannot be easily understood. We respect individuals whose attention cannot simply be purchased with a text message or a casual request. This is why the most respected people rarely appear desperate for approval. They never announce their value. They allow their absence to reveal it. Think about someone who always says yes. Need help moving? They are there. Need someone to listen to your problems? They answer immediately. Need a favor at midnight? They cancel their own plans without hesitation. At first, people appreciate this kindness, but over time, appreciation quietly transforms into expectation. What was once a gift becomes an obligation. Eventually, nobody thanks the person who is always available because everyone assumes they always will be. This is the invisible punishment of unlimited accessibility. The moment people stop wondering whether you will say yes, they stop respecting the sacrifice behind your yes. Now compare that with someone whose time is protected. They do not ignore people out of arrogance. They simply understand that every hour spent on one person is an hour taken away from their own mission. When they agree to meet, it means something. When they answer a call, it carries weight. When they make time for someone, it feels like an opportunity rather than an entitlement. Their presence becomes valuable because it is selective. Many people mistake this for confidence, charisma, or natural leadership. In reality, much of that respect comes from perceived scarcity. Look at powerful leaders, successful entrepreneurs, elite athletes, or highly sought-after professionals. None of them are available to everyone at every moment. They cannot be. Their priorities demand boundaries. Ironically, those very boundaries increase the world's desire for their attention. Human beings unconsciously associate limited access with high value. This principle extends far beyond business. It governs friendships. It governs romance. It governs family dynamics. It even governs the way strangers perceive you. If every conversation begins because you initiate it, people become accustomed to your pursuit. If every disagreement ends with you apologizing first, they begin expecting your surrender. If every invitation comes from you, your company loses its rarity because it is always guaranteed. The more predictable your availability becomes, the less meaningful your presence feels. This does not mean becoming cold, cruel, or emotionally distant. It means becoming intentional. There is a profound difference between being kind and being convenient. Kindness is a choice. Convenience is a habit others develop around you. When people realize they can interrupt your work without consequence, they will continue interrupting it. When they discover you never refuse requests, they will continue making them. When they learn that your schedule always adjusts to theirs, they stop respecting your schedule altogether. This happens gradually, almost invisibly. Respect rarely disappears overnight. It erodes through repeated moments where you communicate without words that your own priorities matter less than everyone else's. Every unnecessary yes quietly lowers your perceived value. Every abandoned personal goal sends the message that your mission can wait. Every instant reply tells the world that nothing in your life is more important than whoever happens to contact you. People listen to actions more carefully than words. You can tell others you are busy, ambitious, and focused. But if you consistently abandon your plans the moment someone asks for your attention, your behavior exposes a different reality. Your availability becomes your identity. This is why powerful individuals understand the strategic value of absence. Absence creates curiosity. Curiosity creates attention. Attention creates perceived value. Value creates respect. Notice how certain people dominate a room without speaking much. They are not rushing from conversation to conversation seeking approval. They are comfortable allowing silence to exist. They understand that mystery often creates stronger impressions than endless explanation. The same principle applies to your time. You do not need to announce that you are important. You need to behave as though your time has importance. Start protecting your mornings instead of giving them away. Stop answering messages the instant they arrive. Allow people to wait occasionally. Finish your work before solving someone else's problems. Choose quality conversations over constant conversations. When someone cannot always reach you, they begin appreciating the moments they can. Your attention becomes something earned rather than assumed. Remember, the goal is not to make yourself impossible to reach. The goal is to stop treating your own time as worthless. Because the moment you treat yourself like an unlimited resource, the world follows your example. But the moment you begin protecting your attention, your energy, and your presence, people instinctively recognize that access to you is no longer free, it is valuable. One of the greatest sources of weakness is not a lack of intelligence, talent, or opportunity. It is emotional dependence. The moment your peace depends on another person's approval, your power no longer belongs to you. The moment your happiness rises and falls according to how someone treats you, you have handed them control over your emotional state. Most people never realize this exchange has taken place. They believe they are simply being caring, loyal, or emotionally available. In reality, they are becoming predictable. Predictable people are easy to control. Human beings are emotional creatures. We react before we think. We defend ourselves before understanding the situation. We speak when silence would have served us better. This is why emotionally disciplined individuals often appear far more powerful than they actually are. They are not stronger because they possess more resources. They are stronger because they refuse to let emotions dictate their decisions. Imagine two people receiving the same insult. The first immediately explodes. They argue, raise their voice, defend themselves, and desperately try to prove the other person wrong. Every word they speak reveals exactly where they are vulnerable. Their anger becomes a map of their insecurities. The second person simply listens. They maintain eye contact. They say very little. Perhaps they smile slightly. Perhaps they say nothing at all. Suddenly, the entire balance of power shifts. The person who intended to provoke now feels uncomfortable. They expected resistance. Instead, they encountered composure. Silence forces people to confront themselves. It denies them the emotional reaction they were hoping to control. This is one of the oldest principles of psychological influence. If someone can predict your emotional response, they can manipulate your behavior. Think about how easily many people surrender control. A delayed text message ruins their day. A criticism destroys their confidence. A compliment determines their mood. A stranger's opinion changes their decisions. Every emotional trigger becomes another invisible string someone else can pull. Power begins where emotional dependence ends. This does not mean suppressing every feeling or pretending emotions do not exist. Emotions are valuable signals. Anger can reveal injustice. Fear can reveal danger. Excitement can reveal opportunity. But there is a profound difference between feeling an emotion and obeying it. Wise individuals observe their emotions before acting on them. Most people do the opposite. When angry, they send the message immediately. When rejected, they beg for another chance. When ignored, they chase harder. When praised, they become addicted to pleasing others. Every reaction strengthens someone else's influence over them. Emotional detachment breaks this cycle. When you stop reacting impulsively, you create space between stimulus and response. Inside that space lies choice. Choice creates freedom. Freedom creates power. This is why emotionally detached people often seem mysterious. They do not reveal every thought the moment it enters their mind. They do not explain themselves unnecessarily. They are comfortable allowing misunderstandings to exist temporarily because they know that constant self-defense often lowers perceived confidence. Weakness constantly seeks validation. Strength rarely announces itself. Notice how insecure people often speak the most. They explain every decision. They justify every action. They desperately want everyone to understand them. Confident individuals recognize something different. Not everyone deserves an explanation. Sometimes silence communicates certainty more effectively than 1,000 carefully chosen words. Silence is uncomfortable because it cannot be easily interpreted. People begin filling the silence with their own assumptions. Often those assumptions elevate your perceived confidence because they cannot detect uncertainty in your behavior. Another powerful aspect of emotional detachment is unpredictability. Most people become trapped in emotional routines. Compliment them and they become attached. Ignore them and they become desperate. Challenge them and they become defensive. These patterns make them easy to read. The person who cannot be emotionally predicted becomes far more difficult to manipulate. This is why disciplined leaders rarely make major decisions during moments of intense emotion. They understand that anger narrows judgment, fear exaggerates danger, excitement encourages recklessness. Instead of reacting immediately, they delay, they think, they observe. Time allows emotions to cool while logic becomes clearer. Patience is often mistaken for passivity. In reality, patience is strategic restraint. There is enormous strength in refusing to let another person's behavior dictate your own. Someone insults you, you remain calm. Someone ignores you, you continue building your life. Someone tries to provoke jealousy, you refuse to compete. Each moment communicates the same message. My emotional state is not controlled by you. People instinctively respect individuals who cannot be emotionally shaken. This respect is not always conscious. It emerges because emotional stability signals inner confidence. A person who remains calm under pressure appears capable of handling greater responsibility. A person who refuses to panic during conflict appears trustworthy. A person who never chases approval appears valuable because their self-worth comes from within rather than from external validation. Ironically, the less desperately you seek respect, the more naturally it arrives. The less you need recognition, the more noticeable your presence becomes. The less you fear losing people, the more carefully people consider losing you. This is one of the deepest paradoxes of human psychology. Neediness repels, composure attracts, desperation lowers value. Calm confidence increases it. Your greatest advantage is not becoming emotionless. It is becoming emotionally disciplined enough that no insult, rejection, delay, criticism, or temporary setback can pull you away from your purpose. When your mission becomes more important than your emotions, your reactions become intentional instead of impulsive. People stop seeing someone who is easily influenced and begin seeing someone whose self-control cannot be purchased with praise or destroyed by criticism. In a world where millions of people compete for attention every single day, the greatest mistake you can make is trying to be noticed instead of becoming undeniable. Most people spend their lives chasing visibility. They want followers before they have mastery. They want recognition before they have earned respect. They want applause before they have built substance. But attention gained without value disappears as quickly as it arrives. Reputation built on excellence, however, continues speaking long after you have left the room. People may ignore your words. They rarely ignore consistent results. There is a profound difference between someone who constantly tells the world how valuable they are and someone whose work forces the world to recognize it. The first relies on marketing. The second relies on reputation. Human psychology always places greater trust in evidence than in promises. Observe the people whose names carry weight. The moment they enter a room, conversations change. Their opinions are taken seriously before they even explain themselves. Opportunities seem to find them without endless chasing. It appears as though life simply favors them. It does not. What you are witnessing is the invisible power of accumulated reputation. Reputation is delayed influence. Every disciplined morning, every promise kept, every difficult skill mastered, every obstacle overcome without complaint. Every moment of consistency becomes another brick in a foundation that other people eventually begin to notice. Unfortunately, most individuals abandon the process before the results become visible. They want immediate recognition for temporary effort. They work hard for 1 week and expect life to reward them forever. They read one book and believe they have become wise. They achieve one success and stop growing. But reputation is never built through isolated victories. It is built through relentless consistency. Human beings naturally judge patterns more than isolated events. Anyone can appear confident for one conversation. Anyone can work hard for one day. Anyone can seem disciplined for 1 month. Very few can maintain excellence for years. That rarity creates respect. This is why discipline quietly outperforms talent. Talent attracts attention. Discipline earns trust. People admire natural ability, but they depend on reliability. If someone repeatedly delivers exceptional work regardless of circumstances, others begin associating that person with certainty. Certainty creates authority. Authority creates influence. Notice how respected individuals rarely need to convince others of their importance. Their history speaks before they do. Every accomplishment becomes silent proof. Every challenge survived becomes evidence of resilience. Every promise fulfilled strengthens their credibility. Eventually, people stop asking, can this person do it? Instead, they ask, when will they do it? That shift is priceless. Many people waste enormous energy trying to impress strangers while neglecting the habits that actually create lasting admiration. They buy expensive clothes, luxury watches, status symbols. They carefully design an image of success. But appearances can only deceive people temporarily. Competence cannot be faked forever. The truth always reveals itself under pressure. When problems become difficult, titles lose their power, excuses lose their power, appearance loses its power, only ability remains. This is why you should become dangerous in silence. Master skills while others chase attention, read while others scroll endlessly, practice while others complain, improve while others compare themselves to everyone around them. The strongest reputation is often built before anyone notices it. Like an iceberg, the greatest part remains hidden beneath the surface. People only witness the success. They never see the thousands of quiet hours invested before success became visible. This hidden preparation creates confidence that cannot be manufactured. True confidence is not positive thinking. It is evidence. When you know how much work you have invested, self-belief no longer depends on compliments. You become difficult to intimidate because your confidence comes from preparation instead of opinion. Another crucial element of an unforgettable reputation is emotional consistency. Many talented individuals destroy years of credibility because they cannot control themselves under pressure. One emotional outburst, one broken promise, one dishonest decision, one moment of arrogance, trust begins to crack. Reputation grows slowly but can weaken quickly. That is why disciplined individuals guard their character as carefully as they guard their ambitions. People remember how you behave when life becomes uncomfortable. Anyone can appear calm during success. Anyone can appear generous when resources are abundant. Character becomes visible during difficulty. When stress increases, do you panic? Do you blame others? Do you abandon responsibility? Or do you remain composed while everyone else loses control? Those moments permanently shape how people remember you. Another mistake people make is confusing popularity with respect. Popularity depends on pleasing people. Respect depends on principles. The person who tries to satisfy everyone eventually stands for nothing. The person guided by clear values often disappoints others in the short term, but earns lasting admiration in the long term. Respect frequently requires disappointing people. Sometimes you must refuse opportunities that conflict with your standards. Sometimes you must walk away from relationships that weaken your purpose. Sometimes you must remain silent while others desperately seek approval. Each difficult decision strengthens your internal identity. People instinctively recognize individuals who refuse to compromise themselves for temporary comfort. Over time, your name begins carrying expectations. People expect professionalism. They expect discipline. They expect quality, not because you demanded it, but because your actions repeatedly demonstrated it. That is the highest level of influence. A reputation so strong that your presence creates confidence before you even speak. Remember, the loudest person in the room is rarely the most respected. The individual who constantly announces their value usually doubts it themselves. Real influence is quiet. It is built through years of discipline, competence, integrity, and relentless self-improvement. When your standards become higher than your need for recognition, people begin to notice something extraordinary about you. They stop remembering what you claimed you could become and start remembering the undeniable evidence of who you have already proven yourself to be. The most valuable currency in your life is not money. It is not influence. It is not even talent. It is your time, your energy, and the standards that determine where both are invested. Money can be lost and earned again. Opportunities come and go. Skills can be learned at any age. But every hour you waste is permanently removed from your life. Every ounce of energy spent pleasing the wrong people is energy stolen from your own purpose. Yet most people give these priceless resources away as if they have an unlimited supply. They guard their wallets with extraordinary care, but they allow anyone to consume their attention. Anyone can interrupt their day. Anyone can borrow their emotional energy. Anyone can demand their time. And then they wonder why they feel exhausted while making so little progress. The answer is simple. They have protected everything except what is truly valuable. The world constantly tests your standards, not with dramatic moments, but with ordinary decisions. Will you abandon your priorities because someone asks for a favor? Will you sacrifice your peace to avoid disappointing someone? Will you tolerate disrespect because you fear being alone? Each decision quietly teaches people how they are allowed to treat you. Human beings learn through repetition. If someone repeatedly crosses your boundaries without consequence, they assume there are no boundaries. If someone repeatedly wastes your time and you continue accepting it, they conclude your time has little value. If someone repeatedly disrespects your standards and you remain silent, they begin believing your standards are negotiable. People rarely respect limits that you refuse to enforce. This is why boundaries are not acts of selfishness. They are acts of self-respect. Unfortunately, many people misunderstand boundaries. They believe saying no makes them rude. They believe refusing requests makes them unkind. They believe protecting their own peace somehow makes them selfish. So they continue saying yes. Yes to obligations they never wanted. Yes to conversations that drain them. Yes to relationships that no longer help them grow. Yes to responsibilities that belong to someone else. Eventually, their life becomes filled with commitments they never consciously chose. Every unnecessary yes is secretly a no to something more important. Every hour spent solving someone else's avoidable problems is an hour not invested in your own future. Every moment spent arguing with negative people is a moment stolen from your goals. Life rarely destroys people through dramatic disasters. More often, it destroys them through endless small distractions. The individual who learns to protect their attention gains an enormous advantage. Attention determines focus. Focus determines progress. Progress determines results. This is why successful people often appear selective. They are selective because they understand opportunity cost. Every choice eliminates another possibility. If they spend an evening complaining, they cannot spend that same evening improving. If they constantly entertain drama, they cannot devote that mental energy to creation. If they chase everyone's approval, they cannot fully pursue their own mission. Their standards become filters. Not everyone receives access to their time. Not every invitation deserves acceptance. Not every argument deserves a response. Not every opinion deserves consideration. One of the strongest psychological signals of value is selectiveness. Luxury brands do not attempt to serve everyone. Elite universities reject far more applicants than they accept. Exclusive clubs become desirable because access is limited. Scarcity increases perceived value. The same principle applies to your personal life. When you treat your time as precious, others begin viewing it the same way. When you refuse to lower your standards for temporary comfort, people recognize that your principles cannot be easily purchased. Many individuals fear losing people by enforcing boundaries. Ironically, the opposite often happens. Those who genuinely respect you adapt. Those who only benefited from your lack of boundaries disappear. What remains are healthier relationships built on mutual respect instead of convenience. Remember this distinction carefully. Some people love you, others simply love your availability. The moment you stop providing unlimited access, these differences become painfully clear. Do not fear that discovery. It is valuable information. It reveals who values your presence and who merely values your usefulness. Another essential standard involves your environment. Every person around you influences your thinking. Spend enough time with complainers and complaining begins feeling normal. Spend enough time with undisciplined people and excuses become acceptable. Spend enough time with individuals who settle for mediocrity and ambition starts feeling uncomfortable. Your environment quietly shapes your identity. This is why protecting your circle is protecting your future. Not everyone deserves a permanent place in your life. Some relationships belong to previous chapters. Growth often requires distance. This is not hatred. It is maturity. You cannot continuously climb while carrying everyone who refuses to move. Protecting your standards also means protecting your integrity. Never compromise your values for immediate rewards. Temporary victories gained through dishonesty usually become permanent burdens. Character is expensive to build and incredibly easy to lose. Every decision either strengthens your identity or weakens it. When your standards become non-negotiable, decision-making becomes surprisingly simple. You stop asking whether something is easy. You ask whether it aligns with your principles. You stop asking whether people will approve. You ask whether it supports your mission. You stop asking whether everyone will understand. You accept that they do not need to. One of the quietest forms of confidence is refusing to explain every boundary you establish. You do not owe lengthy justifications for protecting your peace. You do not need permission to prioritize your health. You do not need approval to invest in your own future. The strongest people understand a profound truth. Every meaningful achievement requires sacrifice. Sometimes the sacrifice is comfort. Sometimes it is popularity. Sometimes it is relationships that no longer belong in your life. The price of becoming extraordinary is often misunderstood by ordinary people. They will call your discipline obsession. They will call your boundaries arrogance. They will call your focus selfishness. Do not allow those labels to weaken your resolve. People often criticize the standards they secretly wish they possessed. Remember that respect is rarely given to the person who is available for everyone, agrees with everyone, and tolerates everything. Respect is earned by the individual who values their own time enough to protect it, guards their energy from unnecessary battles, and refuses to lower their standards simply to make others comfortable. The moment you begin treating your attention, your peace, and your principles as priceless assets, the world slowly stops seeing you as someone who can be used and starts seeing you as someone whose presence must be earned.